What's up, guys? This is Walk Talk Football, the show where we talk about everything that's on your mind. Today we have a very special guest on Roberto Martinez, Belgium manager, so let's walk. What are your honest expectations on Belgium's chances next summer in Russia? And what teams do you believe have the best chance of lifting the trophy at the World Cup?
Well, I think that's the question at the moment. After we had the draw, then it's almost the expectation is to try to find out what teams could win the World Cup, what teams could do well. I think there is one clear answer. There is a psychological door that you have to believe that you can win a World Cup. And that's why the teams that they won the World Cup, they always got on a chance to win the World Cup. So if you look in the last 25 years, Spain, France, Germany, Argentina and Brazil, they will be the countries that as a player you feel that you have to win the World Cup. And then in Belgium we got the mentality that we are a really strong group of players and that we want to go as far as we can. But you have to grow in the tournament because you haven't got that direction of other generations that they won the major tournament.
What were your initial thoughts when Belgium came calling? How did you prepare yourself to go from managing clubs to managing the national team? And Nick says, tell Hazard and Michi I say hi next time he sees them.
Well, I think it's very interesting, the aspect that I'm still a very young coach in that respect. 10 years in the British game, 7 consecutively in the Premier League. It's a very intense type of day-to-day work. But I think when the opportunity of managing Belgium at international level, it was down to the quality of these players. Players that I had 3 at Everton, Marwan Fellaini, Kevin Mirallas and Romelu Lukaku. 3 very, very different footballers. And I think they represent the diversity of that dressing room. And then there's almost 25 players in the Premier League that you had to face them week in, week out, like Kevin De Bruyne, Eden Hazard, Thibaut Courtois, Simon Mignolet, Vertonghen, Vermaelen. Players that you can see enormous potential. So the excitement of coming together and trying to work with a group that individually are, for me, potentially as good as you're going to find in world football, that was probably the pulling aspect of becoming an international head coach.
You get to work with incredible players day in, day out. Speaking of Lukaku, how has he changed his playing style since you left Everton?
Well, I think the interesting aspect of Romelu Lukaku is that he's got an outstanding quality, and that's scoring goals. And that's where you, as a manager, you would invest a lot of money, like we did at Everton. He became the biggest purchase in the history at that time. Now that was just a young player. At the age of 21, you're not the finished article. So Romelu he can be very good at the hold-up play. He can be very good in running in behind the defenders. He can be powerful. He can have the technical ability. So for me, he's one of the most complete number 9s that you're going to find in world football. But he's still only 24. Right. So he will carry on developing because his mentality is to try to become as good as he can. And that's what you want, a good attitude and then having an outstanding quality. And clearly, Romelu's outstanding quality is scoring goals.
Right. And how is managing the national team different in comparison to managing a club team like Everton? And do you have any regrets about Everton?
No, nothing at all. I think looking back at Everton, we created fantastic memories, reaching 72 points in the league, the experiences that we had in Europa League, getting very close of getting in domestic finals with 2 semi-finals and developing young players that I always believed they had an incredible potential. So I think the opportunity of managing in a World Cup, it was so attractive and interesting that it was worth it to wait 2 years, because that's what international football, everything goes a little bit more in planning and preparation and less games. Qualifying for the World Cup was essential. The moment that we qualified for the World Cup, then you can look forward to one of the most unique experiences that you're going to have in football, which is participating in the World Cup. So very much looking forward in that respect. I'm feeling very privileged to go to a World Cup with this group of players, and the Belgium believe behind this generation that makes that the whole country is together behind the group.
Awesome. What is your biggest hobby outside of football? As a manager, I know it's your life, but what do you do when you have to step away from it?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think you can step away from it. The moment you step away from it, is you're not going to last in this sort of job.
Right, it consumes your life.
It's not a job. It's a passion. It's a way of living.
Yeah.
And I always relax watching football. As strange as it sounds, you can get yourself almost emerge into a different type of league or different game that you can really enjoy the game for what it is.
A different book, right?
It is, yeah, but it's almost a therapeutic way of seeing a game that you don't have to make the calls and make the decisions, but you can enjoy the essence of the game. So
that's fantastic. Is this golden generation a flash in the pan, or has Belgium built up the infrastructure to be able to maintain a high level of international success for years to come?
I think that's very important. I think that's one of the aims that we have in the federation, in the Belgian Federation, is to make sure that obviously we give this group of players everything they need to perform in a World Cup in terms of the tactical flexibility and the clarity that they need to have on the pitch and the support and the help. But the other aspect is to make sure that the younger generation gets an opportunity to develop and in a way fill these players' boots one day. Is Belgium, we have 11 million population, and we need to make sure that the good things that they've been done in the last 10 years to produce this group of players need to be now a structure that will allow the younger generation to develop into the level that this group of players have.
Fantastic. Does the divide in Belgium between the two sets of people, the Flemish and the Walloons, affect the national team?
Not at all. No, I think obviously as a country, any country that has got 3 official languages, that has got a lot of diversity, you're gonna get different ways of thinking, different ways of living, but football brings the whole community together. And I think that's where it's a very magical, powerful tool to have. A team that it brings that expectation, that it brings that joy, that it unites the whole country. So not such a thing as having groups in the team. It's the opposite. I think they are fantastic ambassadors, not just of Belgian football, it's of Belgian people. And that's why we need to bring that. It's almost a responsibility for the players, but it shouldn't be in any case a pressure. It should be just a real role to enjoy in the World Cup.
Do you feel like that diversity strengthens the team?
Absolutely, yeah. And it happens in the Premier League now. In many dressing rooms, you see so many nationalities, you see so many diversity that helps towards being a stronger team. Different cultures bring different ways of understanding the game, different abilities. You bring the power and the pace and almost the physical game mixed up with the technical play, and players that they are very small and very light, but they got a control of the ball that is magnificent. If you can bring that diversity together, that's what can make you a great team.
Lukaku and the Mertens.
For example, and understanding that both they got the similar footballing brain, if you want, and then you can mix any extreme of quality on a footballer, and that comes from the education, and that's what's important to maintain that structure for young players that they can go. We've got a really strong system with the top sports schools in Belgium that allows you to get the player thinking in the same way of length. Then it doesn't matter what outstanding attribute you have, for diverse that it is, you can interact with each other really well, and I think that's a very nice example, Rom and Dries.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who is more important to the Belgian team, De Bruyne, Lukaku, or Hazard?
That's very interesting. I think what's more important is that we are a team that we think in the same way. The outstanding individuals now, they're becoming such important players in their own clubs. That is very important that at international level we can find a way to almost to unify the strengths of each individual to become a stronger team. So the answer is to make sure that the team is always the most important aspect.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Do you believe Raja Nainggolan is a top 5 midfielder in the world? Why doesn't he play for Belgium?
I think again is trying to build a team that you have to almost fit all the individuals to create a well-balanced group on the pitch, and that's going to be probably the hardest job that they're going to have, is try to find that structure, and that structure sometimes brings with tough decisions and decisions that they are very difficult, but is always again is having the thought of the team and what could help the team to be able to be a well-balanced group on the football pitch.
How is working with one of the best players of his generation in Thierry Henry? What impact has it had on your players?
Phenomenal impact. I think what Thierry brings is that know-how of going into being part of a generation that everyone is excited, and then he can be part of a group and a team that they became world champions and they became European champions for the first time. And I think that's probably the unique psychological experience that Thierry brings. But I would add a lot more. I think the understanding that he has for the players, almost the empathy that he can bring to the footballer, especially for the attacking footballers, is a real important member in the coaching staff and someone that his attention to detail has been a real joy in the qualifying campaign.
Who is the best player you've ever coached?
Well, it's difficult because the only way that you can be successful as an individual is when the individuals are working for the team and they understand their roles in the team. And in every team you're going to have players that they understand that role and in their moment of their career can become very successful. In every team I could mention one or two players that they were very important at that time. So if you go back at the time that we had in Wigan, you had players like Charles Nzogbia, Hugo Rodallega, James McCarthy, very important players at that time. Then at Everton, Ross Barkley, Gareth Barry. I think Gareth is a footballer that a manager always loves because he's almost the next arm on the football pitch is a coach.
He's an extension of you on the field.
He is. And then obviously the talented players that we had in young players like Romelu Lukaku, to see Romelu Lukaku growing from a young man that he had incredible potential to become one of the best strikers in the Premier League. That's always been a joy. But I think you could mention a lot of players that they are important for the team at very specific times.
By how many goals are you going to beat England next year?
Well, I think that was in the draw. That was a very special moment. Our players they joined forces at club level to achieve success together. A lot of players that they're going to represent Belgium. They're going to be playing against players that they had in the England camp. You got people in the staff that they got the links. Myself, I spent 21 years in the British game, and I think it would have been very hard to take if we were going to face England in a knockout phase. At the moment, we've been quite fortunate. It's in the group phase, so hopefully we can both fight towards trying to achieve the success of going through, and then you're not going to face each other until the final. So in that respect, is a really nice opportunity in the draw.
Given your extensive history in the country and your players, so many of them play in England, was that very special for you to draw England in the group stage?
Well, yes, just because straight away I had a big job because my daughter is English. So I had to ask her, it's only 4, but I had to ask her if she was going to support the right team on the day. So the links are huge because I was born in Spain, but probably in a management life I was born in England. So the links are close, but I think that's an extra added value that the World Cup brings, to be able to play in between nations, that they mean a lot for many people, but at the end is trying to perform on the pitch and get the result that the nation deserves.
During your playing career, you played as a central midfielder. Do you think that experience helped you more as a coach?
Yes, I think you're looking at it sometimes there are many coaches that they played in their careers as in positions that they had to think a lot. I think the key is about footballers that they had to almost understand why they were playing in those roles and how they could affect the game. Clearly in my position, I was coming from the Spanish school, football of possession, football of technical aspects, and then the British game, especially in the lower leagues, it was very ferocious, it was box to box, and it's almost you have to, looking back now, I started to become a coach at the moment that I started playing in a game that it wasn't suited for my ability, and in that respect you become a real thinker and you just try to find out how you can help the team with your position. So I would say that the midfielder probably gets a real good opportunity to start developing and thinking in the game like a coach.
Thank you so much, Roberto.
Real pleasure.
Thank you, Copa fam.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.